But hey, I'll get there eventually.
Looks like
But
looks like we might be muted here, but that's all right. We'll just roll with it. So, but yeah, all that being said and done. Yep. We don't worry. We can pretend that we're speaking. I'm waiting to hear. I'm waiting to hear it. I'm waiting to hear it.
Ooh,
So once we're through, we're waiting here.
this
Well, I'll just provide all the speaking things here real quick. Um, I think we can be heard. I think we can. So,
there.
I'll, so I will speed run the explanation if you guys were not able to hear us because we're good here. First, this is the first season of the partnership between the CCA League, CCA specifically, Collegiate Cephalopod Association, and IPL, bringing you guys every week of the CCA League here on IPL as well, along with the main CCA channel. This is going to be a lot of fun for us to cover the league in great detail. So we got our first matchup as Rocky noted earlier, while you guys were probably still wondering why our mouths are moving and probably not no words are being heard. All that being said and done, it is of course University of Central Florida and South Florida. And Rocket, just bear with me on this one. Central Florida, the UCF Knights, actually emerged between two teams from season 5 of the CCA League, which happened I think almost a year ago at this point. They used to be UCF Night Sharks and Aeronautics, Division 1 and 2 respectively. They basically came together for the CCA circuit. Did not make it to day 2. From that side, so that is where this team stands. But they are a Division 1 team this season. South Florida, story's been amazing. Season 4, where they were Division 5, they elevate to Division 3 in Season 5, and here they are Division 1 during this school year. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And Rocket, that is our primer here. It should be a ton of fun to watch these two teams be in action.
Yeah, like I mentioned while muted, this is the Florida Bowl. Just a lot of passion between both these teams, I'm sure, just to represent their side of Florida well and just to really prove themselves here. Like you mentioned, USF, just the storyline it is, just the quick, rapid improvement of them and the ability for them to just continuously grow as a team in a very short amount of time. And that is just something that is so impressive from them. And yeah, definitely to keep your eyes on for sure here. As you mentioned, this is going to be our first week to it. So if you're new here, definitely we're going to be having more of this weekly, so that you have a lot of that to look forward to, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I actually just been informed not exactly the story that happened with Central Florida, which I knew they would keep me honest. So I will give myself -1 point. I'll give myself -1 points for that. So to get you guys started here, we got a best of 7 coming up here. So we will have maps coming up here. We're still organizing some stuff behind the scenes just to get you guys into the match here between two teams from the Sunshine State. And Rocket, we do have first map, by the way, as I got it pulled up on the side. We will be kicking things off here in Robo Ramen Zones, and then we have the second map being Humpback Pump Track Tower Control, which actually is a map combination we just don't normally see all together. So this will be the first one leading off here is Ramen Zones. Any opinions on that?
Ramen Zones is a very interesting map. There's always key points on zone maps, and I feel like Robo Ramen has that key point just highlighted exponentially. It's always going to be that elbow. That elbow is so important to take control of, as that can really create lockout situations. Now, you typically see other maps, kind of like Mahi Mahi zones, where basically you are forcing yourself to try to push into the other team by dropping. But comparing that to Robo Ramen, you have several spots to drop from. However, when you're spawning in and trying to drop through the left side, that's not exactly the best spot to go to. Pretty uncommon, so most teams will try to push through that main route on the right side where that elbow is, and that's why it's so important. That is really the main choke point, the main focus for many teams to really work with here. And if the defending team who has control of the zone can really control that, they can continue to just rack up those scores.
And that's kind of going to be what I'm curious to see between both these teams. Of course, taking advantage of, as you know, there with the elbow and what not here in Ramen Zones. So that's where we're going to lead off in map 1. You kind of see the rest of the maps here. Of course, best of 7, first to 4, in this one. So glad to see zones being the first of the bunch here. We do have some very intriguing ones, which I actually had to read the 4th map. We'll have to cover that elephant in the room at some point down the road. But yeah, that first map is gonna be fun to watch. As we do have, without further ado, the first matchup here. Get you guys more familiar here. It is gonna be South Florida, gonna be on the Alpha side. Bravo side is gonna be Central Florida, to my knowledge. Look at the weapons here. Anything that strikes out to you?
To me, Sloshing Machine on JAL right there. You see the Fizzy Booyah Bomb, such a great combination of sub and special, but Sloshing Machine isn't a common weapon we see at all. However, I'd love to see a difference in weapons here because it really allows for different elements that Sloshing Machine can really pincer down and pincer down people well. You see this Platana Stamper from the side of USF Gold already managing to find some opening picks, and this elbow control is what I mentioned at the beginning of the match, Keon, here. This is going to be a key for USF Gold to hold here if they want to keep this lockout situation.
The ultimate question is can they do just that? As we do see points are ticking down here, we do get to see the zone being neutralized for a hot second there, but UCF is gonna lose 3 just like that, and South Florida moving forward now as they're able to move as a unit. Now they're trying to lock out the Knights as we stand with a few more paint being thrown in there into the mix. Gonna be curious to see if they can take advantage of the double trip strikes that Central Florida has. We're gonna see the lead change hands here just like that. Booyah Bomb being used. Every special burned in the book here for Central Florida, but there is no neutral whatsoever, and South Florida still retains possession here. Rocket.
Indeed, you saw that Blaster put up that bubble to really try to take control of this elbow area. South Florida have been doing a very good job at keeping the Knights at bay. However, the strikes are available for Astro here if they can get into good position. However, they might not be needed as you saw the Neo splash strikes go in, but they're still not being able to contest the zone. Finally, the strikes come in from the ZNF. However, it's not quite enough to get the zone, but 2 go down to the Zipcaster. The Splatana trying to go in, maybe try to find a third.
Oh,
Will
man.
find that third, and just like that, the Knights are back in business.
Yeah, Sugi doing a great job there from Central Florida. That Zipcaster into the double, and then following up with the cut in half into Glorp, and that was beautiful for Central Florida as they're able to move forward there and take advantage of it. But we do see just that zone being retained for just a few quick moments. 2 members down, by the way, and South Florida still trying to fight back. They should be able to get the zones capped just like that in the other direction. So still penalty points apply for both teams as we speak. We do get to see a lot of almost a trail of blue and gold paint across the board until it's going to be the zones back and forth. 2 members down on South Florida, 1 on Central Florida. Central Florida losing their sloshing machine as Thai TV gets the trade onto Sugi, but that's all it's going to be. And with this trading back and forth, Central Florida still needs to find a way to break through, and it's going to be a slow roll into this one, Rocket.
Indeed, here 2 players go down from the Knights here, so they're forced back here, just trying to recollect themselves. So far, Central Florida has been able to really control this elbow bear. Great shot onto Thai TV there, as Astro will be able to get the trip strikes off of the back of that, and just like that, be able to control the zone. Now, I feel like the key for the Knights has to be maintaining these trip strikes. You are running 2 strikes with the Neo Splash and the ZNF, so you need to manage those well, as it almost seems like if you can control it well, you will have all those painting specials, as well as the Booyah Bomb you saw coming out from the Sloshing Machine managing to find 1. Now a great opportunity for the Knights to actually pull back and come back here. They just need to make sure they manage their specials well.
Man, some of them specials were actually used pretty aggressively there with the trip strikes that were followed up there from Central Florida, but they were getting pushed back almost immediately as South Florida throws out a Zuka and a few more, but following up with the delayed 3 on top with Glorp getting the pick onto Andu just like that as they're able to move just a bit forward. Not enough for the lead change quite yet. 22 points remain is the score for Central Florida, but still very, very, very close, and both teams very evenly matched at this stage. As we do get to see 2. I think Andu got both of them. Central Florida gets possession back just like that. Minute 13 left to go on the clock. Andu follows it up with a second one, and this is now starting to be a much closer fight here, Rocket.
Yeah, Andu has woken up. However, those strip strikes are a little bit delayed there, as the members of Gold are able to at least take them down there. Now you see an opportunity for USF to go in. You see the strip strikes already going in. Globe just trying to stay alive on this right side, as it has so far been a back and forward with now a minute remaining. You see the Sloshing Machine waiting for a good opportunity to put down that Booyah Bomb. Finally goes out, maybe giving the Knights an opportunity to get back into the zone here. But so far, USF have been able to really hold the zone pretty effectively. However, now with that, you see the trip strikes going out. You see them online. You see a pick going in favor of the Knights, and still with 2 specials available, they have plenty of resources to take this one back, Eon.
Yeah, still plenty of time to make this one work. They got a Zipcaster that is available and a Trip Strike. So these Trip Strikes are probably gonna be used to throw Southern Florida backwards. But there is a Zuka from Thai TV, as there's a lot of paint being thrown down right into the zone. It is a bit of a brawl, but Southern Florida is gonna come out on top here. Booyah Bomb is actually thrown close to the edge. That's not gonna be enough paint. South Florida is gonna defend this one very, very well. Two members down. That's all gonna be make that the third for the cherry on top. Kicking off week one, the first match here in IPL, and the first one goes to USF Gold here, Rocket.
Now that was really, really impressive for a multitude of reasons. Not only but because both these teams were able to get and keep it a very, very tug of war type match, but based on the specials that the Knights had, I mean, you saw they had two trip strikes and a booyah bomb. That is a lot of painting specials and a lot of space taking specials to have, and despite that, USF were still able to overcome that with their comp, with that bubble, with the cooler, being able to counteract well and kind of read the flow of the battle, not trying to force anything too aggressively. Let these specials come out and then punish accordingly together.
I kind of love that coordination that they had. You've pretty much
Hmm.
hit the nails. Like, when will they use the booyah bombs and the trip strikes effectively? That, I mean, you saw from the early pushes from that game there. South Florida just ran right up, just ran forward, and was able to hold on for a long time. It took a bit. It took Central Florida a little bit just to even get their specials built up and be done in such a way where in this scenario, their specials just kind of came in a little bit later than normal to take full advantage. So the trip strikes, very aggressive trip strikes, just trying to zone out South Florida, no success. So we ended off just like that. Map one in a Sunshine State battles is gonna go to South Florida. So now we go to map number two. It's Humpback Pump Track Tower Control. Now, we don't normally see this map combination in a while. I'm
Hmm.
sure people will be like, "What is this is interesting." CCA League runs a variety of different maps here, so don't be surprised if a lot of this is like, "What is this doing here?" Well, now you know. But any opinions that you think of for when you see Humpback Pump Track Tower Control?
Now, we saw what the Knights ran in terms of specials and how good they are at taking control of the zone. Tower control could be an interesting story. If you run back the double trip strikes and the booyah bomb, you have a lot of ammunition to keep USF off of the tower. I mean, trip strikes are called GG strikes for a reason. Booyah bomb is basically applying the same effect there, basically allowing you to basically just allow to just preventing the other team from even touching the tower, even being in a remotely close area here. But it's gonna be that's my main question. Are the Knights going to stick with that comp here? Because it didn't quite really work that well for them in the previous match, but maybe Tower is more their game mode. On the side of USF, on the other hand, something key that I think should stay, that Vanilla Blaster. That Vanilla Blaster with the bubble could be the key for them pushing up.
This is gonna be. I think what we saw with the double trip strikes Booyah. I feel like that could be a very zone specific comp that is dish out. It's heavy paint output. I wouldn't be
Hmm.
surprised if they keep one trip strikes. It in the mix there. You mentioned GG strikes exactly would be the reasoning. The other thing too is you have to consider that this is a very condensed map, so there also could be some rationale to keeping either all three, two, or even just the one, or for some reason none. But more often than not, you'll probably end up seeing the trip strikes always come back here in a tower control map, and especially with this kind of map that you have, you could see it here. Slosh Machine is definitely not a bad pick as well. Instead of obviously you normally see Rainmaker in this map, where you
Hmm.
had right side and then dive deep into it. With the tower having to be a little bit of a tighter pathing, Rocket, this actually would be a bad time to dish on the sloshing machine. Maybe both teams will start giving us some ideas. Excuse
Ooh.
me, as we do see, there's that blaster, there's that heavy-headed as well. Dueling heavy-headed, dueling blasters, just different varieties of the blaster in this case. It is a wholesale comp change from Central Florida. Okay then.
Okay, I like this. I like this. So you see Peace there on the side of the Knights, going with actually the custom blaster instead of mirroring Gold's V blaster here. It's an interesting choice, but I don't say it's a bad one. Splashdown is really good in these situations here. Glorp is taken out, however, and actually two members of Gold are taken out as the Knights try to advance forward with their entirely different comp. You see Dizzy here on that V splash now with the crab managing to take some space, however, to go down to that carbon, and now an opportunity for South Florida to recover themselves here.
Yeah, South Florida giving path to that carbon roller is just doing wonders there. Tide TV, I think, even dished out the carbon roller from the previous game as well, and did work with it. As we do get to see a delayed 3 down, so South Florida will have a chance to punch first here, and it's actually going to be a lot more fighting that is going to value USF Gold at this stage. Now they can look to play a lot more aggressively. Zuga right down the path, and that's Tide TV gained a few. It's going to get caught between a rock and a hard place with the curling bomb, but it is going to be a lead change once more. 2 members, make that 3 members down from South Florida. Could be a delayed wipe. Yes, it is actually a full wipe in this case, but it is going to stall them at 64 points remaining. It is a lead, nevertheless, though, Rocket, with USF striking back very well.
Yeah, they have a good opportunity here for taking the lead really, really quickly. You saw Astral pop their cooler early, so these players from the Knights are able to push in with a little bit more confidence. However, the Carbon manages to find that edit, is taken out, is traded out, so the push isn't entirely over yet, especially since the Trip Strikes will now be invested from that slosher. You see Dizzy on this bunk side, maybe just trying to be a little bit of a distraction, pull attention away from the tower, as it seems to be working out very, very well as the Knights continue to surge forward. That is a delayed wipeout here. Keeley taking out the Trip Strikes from USF. This could be disastrous for USF Gold here, Keon, if they can continue this push.
Oh yeah, this could be big disaster right now. It is gonna be 2 down on both sides, but the trades will allow the jumps to come in, and Central Florida could maintain a lot of control on that Southern Florida's territory there. The tricky thing that USF Gold was dealing with, again with the condensed map and the way that Central Florida was fighting, Central Florida just took advantage big time, and they broke through the second checkpoint. The third one not quite there yet. It's always a tricky one with that third checkpoint close to spawn, but that tower is gonna fully reset. UCF, excuse me, is going to have to run the table once more. USF at least giving themselves time to rethink, but it's not going to be for long, because you know UCF will play very aggressively with the way this map is laid out, and it's going to be a 3 down once more. Central Florida continues to push.
Yeah, Glorp being the last player standing on that blaster, just trying to play the poking game, trying to delay the push as much as possible, trying to allow the rest of USF Gold to try to push in here. You see Glorp does have the bubble available, actually does find Astral, and with that 2 players in total are down for the night, so that could be pushed over. Yes, it is, as USF Gold now try to search for Glorp again, trying to maintain all this space, still has bubble in the pocket, and actually all specials online for South Florida here. You saw the cooler being popped as well. You see the Zuka off screen, I believe, finds 1. And now a great opportunity with these specials to push in, but they need to make this opportunity count.
The opportunity is going to have to matter here, Rocket, as you noted. There is the crab tank that is going to be used here, but there's no specials available. A lot of specials were burned. Bubbler close to UCF spawn there, but it's just Benadryl having to retreat with that heavy hit, excuse me, as that's gonna be delayed 4, and that is UCF completely collapsing on that push. That is great awareness there from the Knights, as the Knights were able to hold strong. That one USF was almost able to get a push going, but again, it's humpback pump track. You know how small this map is, or rather how condensed it can get, and with about a minute left to go, there is the crab tank being popped there by Dizzy. Dizzy's going to be caught between a rock and a hard place with the Trip Strikes there, as Tide TV still lurking large, gets a second pick, and USF is still holding on, as Tide TV takes out Sugi. There's the second one on the Dizzy, and Tide TV is showing up right now, but they're going to need a little bit more with about 43 seconds left here, Rocket.
I mean, this is to be expected. This is Carbon's best map. You see the Zuka managed to find another here. This Carbon needs to be dealt with if you're on the side of the Knights. You need to make sure this is out of your head, out of your worries, as a lurking Carbon is so dangerous. You see them continuously just tormenting the backline of UCF here. However, their members, their teammates are falling all around him, so the push could be stalling out a little bit. However, the tower is still making good progress. 15 seconds left in this match. The jumps are coming out. The Zuka again is coming out from Tide TV, going absolutely nuclear, but it's finally taken out. The Carbon is out of commission. 5 seconds left. It doesn't look like any player of USF Gold is in position to try to contest, and that means that Central Florida will even things up 1-1. But can I just give some props to Tide TV there?
I think every Central Florida contingent just exhaled a sigh of relief, to say the least. That lead could have easily swung to a 2-0 lead for USF Gold, and what I saw in the frantic pace there, Rocket, was almost UCF throwing everybody from Spawn to Howard trying to stall USF. You saw jumps were even being staggered there too, which in most cases can always be bad, but USF was kind of stuck. Was kind of stuck having to make those jumps happen with about 10 seconds left to go on the clock. So, I mean, credit to USF for still holding on strong, but Central Florida, that defense needed to buckle themselves in when they needed it.
Yeah, that looked almost dangerous. Thai TV was seeing blood in the water. I believe like 8 kills before even being taken out there, just continuously coming out in the back line, being able to just play the poking game. But I mean, great recovery, just still great recovery from the Knights to be able to still hold on to that regardless. And what was that set up by? It was set up by their great push from the beginning. They wouldn't have that buffer to really work with if they didn't get that good push, Keon. So that's just good on them to just setting the pace early and being able to play keep away at the end.
And the battle of the Sunshine State is just going full throttle at this rate. And you mentioned before they needed all the room they can get from that early push. 14 points remaining, you would think would be a winning push, but in Humpback Pump Track, I've said it about 5 times already. Condensed map, if you lose so many fights in quick succession there, that lead can vanish almost near instantly. And that's what we almost saw at the tail end of that. But thankfully for UCF fans and every Central Florida contingent, they don't have to worry about that much more. We can go into that third map here. It's a classic Rainmaker map in Scorch Gorge, which I would say classic because people think Undertow, of course, but Scorch Rainmaker's the next one. I've seen a few classic moments in my past here watching Scorch Gorge Rainmaker and CCA. But before I go back to nostalgia, any thoughts on this map combination here, Rocket?
Again, Elbow, the similarity to Robo Ramen of the control here for Robo Ramen. Barely any teams, if I don't even remember the last time I've seen a team on Rainmaker Scourge Gorge take the great route. Really, it's really difficult path to take. I mean, it's similar to Crab Lake Capital Rainmaker. I call it no man's land. You're so vulnerable walking the Rainmaker on that left side that basically it's just a agreement to go on that right side checkpoint, and that's where the problem may lie. It's such a very hard checkpoint and choke point to push through, as yes, you may be able to get the checkpoint, sure, but the push afterwards, it is a brutal one because there's so many different elevated positions that the other team can really settle themselves on. So maybe setting yourself up like setting a charger, setting a edit like we've seen from both teams. Both teams did run an edit there in that game. It's going to be really difficult to push into if you're not coordinated and if you don't have the resources or specials to get into.
And the thing with this map is when you see the points remaining probably go about 30 to 40, let's say, or even less than that. Normally those portions are so hard to get lead back, so it's gonna really boil down to who gets that aggressive winning push there. As we do get to load it in onto this Rainmaker map. As we look at the weapons, there are a few changes. Pencil, of course, making an appearance there. Another somewhat wholesale change. I think 3 out of 4 weapons on Central Florida getting swapped out there. The only steady thing being Peace on that custom blaster there. So that is the weapon loadout there. But Astral just going back to the Zeko Firefin scope with the trip strike. It's going to be intriguing to see how that's all going to play out here, Rocket.
Yeah, you need those trip strikes to be in great positions to allow yourself to push yourself through that checkpoint like I mentioned here. And already both sides do lose a player initially, but so far the mid fight is still really difficult to get through, as you see here. Thai TV just lurking with that carbon roller. You know how deadly they can be. It will jump out here. You see Glorp maybe taking a 2-on-1. Actually manages to find the Stamper there. Somehow still alive and finding Peace as well. Could find 3 here as Astral manages to escape, but that is 3 members of the Knights falling, and that they continue to fall. The jumps are coming in, but in a not unfavorable situation. Glorp still being a problem here and could single-handedly allow USF to push in, and they do.
I think I've lost count after 5. I think that's all I need to say about that one. That was around 5 to 7 picks from Glorp with the blaster, playing that masterfully, finding places where that blaster can just run havoc. The unfortunate thing, though, even with Glorp's greatest efforts, Peace is trying to equal that in spades, as it's only just the first checkpoint being cleared out. UCF for all the fights that has ended well in Glorp's favor, as a Zuka gets 2 from Thai TV. That one is a great Zuka. That is a quad, if I am not mistaken, from Thai TV. 2 with the Zuka, the 2 more from the Carbon Roller, and we have had 3 pop-offs here already, as Sugi's going to go down and making that the delayed 5K right out of the hands from Thai TV, and fireworks are already happening here, Rocket.
It is evident that these players from South Florida did not take that last loss lightly. They are here to play. Unfortunately, Glorp does go down to piece here, just holding the line, being that other blaster frontline presence they are. You see Benadryl being that Rainmaker carrier, just ever so slightly moving forward. Two players are down from the Knights here. The points here are so valuable as they're so hard to get as Benadryl continues to make their push forward.
Oh
South
no.
Florida are making their advance here all the way down to 18. They will take that any day of the week here. Glorp will find one, is traded out, and that is a wipeout in favor of the Knights, sure, but look at the score, Keon, all the way down to 18, and like I mentioned, points after the checkpoint come at a premium as that is not an easy feat to get.
Benadryl with the pick onto the with that Rainmaker, using the Rainmaker as a weapon, meant a lot. As then the staggers just kept happening from Central Florida, and it just led what started off from just 68 points remaining at the checkpoint to 18 points remaining. Highlighted their earlier point as well, around 30 to 40, less than that, and that started to become a game-winning push. And Central Florida at least has shown a lot of poise there, and maybe they'll hold their ground, but they're gonna have to do it a second. They're gonna have to do it a second time here as the triple splashdown from Peace takes out Glorp. Blaster on Blaster, this time with the special helping them out on this in this case. But USF is going to have to retreat in this scenario as Glorp is still trying to fight Peace with the Blaster on Blaster duel. The Central Florida is going to have to do it. We'll have to do it once more. They got to break through the checkpoint, but they got to break through USF as well, but they have been able to win a couple of these fights. Now the question comes: can they break through the defenses of South Florida here, Rocket?
Yeah, that is the big question that needs answering. However, you need to deal with Thai TV on that Carbon, who manages to get a great flank onto the Rainmaker here, take him down, and also take down Peace in the background as well. This Carbon has been such a problem and an enigma that the Knights have just not been able to answer quite yet. They've been able to just try to stay alive, but Astral might be the one to answer that question, just shutting down that Carbon right in his tracks. Their trip strikes are also available. The Rainmaker will be reset, so a little bit of a very interesting choice here as the Knights will now have an opportunity to pick up that Rainmaker and continue their advance. You see trip strikes being popped as well, and with a minute left, the Knights need to go now. The Glorp is cleaned up on that backhand, but the Knights lose the Rainmaker. A great pick from USF here to stall out the push.
Yeah, that's a great pick, and now this has to be the time there. Sugi just beelines for the sniper, and that was a perfect pick there. Glorp is massively dodging some of those Zipcaster shots, but this is now going to be the time here for Central Florida. They basically almost got one push left in the tank with the way the Rainmaker is placed. Splat Bomb is being chucked in there, trying to slow down Sugi. Now this is the time to move. Glorp is down. This could be the window of opportunity here for Central Florida as paint is being dished out here big time. The defense needs to hold here from South Florida as everybody's kind of spreading themselves across. Pieces down as there is a trade of the blasters as Thai TV is down. Two key members are down. It is just the Sniper Rider and the T-Tech weapon that is still alive. About 2 seconds left into OT. Dizzy still trying to play dance with the Rainmaker here. Trip strikes are being dished out halfway through overtime because of the timer as they get the blaster in, but that Rainmaker gets swatted away and is gone just like that. Another nail-biting finish there. USF trying to hold on for dear life, able to do just that. Defense on defense, 2-1 lead for USF Gold.
All of these have been nail biters so far, Keon. These teams are so even. All it takes is one mistake from either team to really set themselves across, and unfortunately this time it was the Knights that made that mistake there at the beginning. USF Gold were able to push in initially, again, get that lead, be able to play keep away, and that just seems to be the key for both these teams, that you want to set yourself up for success in the long run so you don't have to play catch up at the end there. The Knights in an unfortunate situation, being in overtime on Rainmaker when all the pressure is on you is so stressful. All it takes is one player or one miscue for the Rainmaker and that's done, push over, and it's hard to come back from, but the Knights gave a very valiant effort there, so props to them for making it so close. But yeah, South Florida, a great defense at the end.
South Florida's defense holds kind of similar to how Central Florida needed to hold on the second map there in Humpback Pump Track Tower Control. They able to do the exact same thing. I got a little scared there with the picks that were coming in from UCF to USF, especially with the pencil down on top of it. But USF was able to hold on just nicely. It wasn't really even the main players going down that sold out USF. There just wasn't room to maneuver. And such is another story of Scorch Gorge Rainmaker, where again, where it's such a narrow pathway, it's gonna be so hard to get that through. You had to get those picks at the right time, and just did not happen. So we are now 2-1 here for USF. Fourth map, and yes, your eyes are not being deceived. It is Hammerhead Bridge Clam Blitz coming up. People who play Anarchy will be like, "What is this doing here?" I will tell you right now, it is pretty much one pathway to the clam basket. It is certainly it is a map that normally doesn't see airtime here, Rocket.
I mean, some people have strong opinions about it. I will leave those that being there, but yes, it is a very interesting map mode here, and it's probably the one map mode in this series that is, I would argue it's more off-putting than Tower Control, Humpback Pump Track, as
Fair.
this map in general, like not even just considering this map mode combination, just the map, just Hammerhead Bridge is just not seen, if not ever, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I just love to see chaos here, but I also like to see what these teams are cooking up with this unusual map mode pick. Maybe not used to playing this, like you mentioned. Instead of like you see this typically in Anarchy Open, you just avoid it and you just wait for the 2 hour rotation, whatever, and move on. But I would be fascinated to see if we will see the return of the double blaster. We've seen them run both teams there, but the key interesting thing is still the vanilla blaster coming out from South Florida, the custom blaster from Central Florida. So a little bit difference of philosophy there with Run having that bubble for the protection. Maybe you can set that up under the barrier and allow yourself to push in, or will you have that splashdown to create that space, or maybe even get a pick with it?
I think that's an interesting thing you noted there is that it's two different blaster flavors, but they're both. I feel like you could go either way with the
Mhm.
blaster there. Well, you're not gonna need it now. Unfortunately, there's weapon changes, so blasters are tabled both
Ooh.
ways. You just forget the blaster, pretend that never existed. Glorp, by the way, on the mint decaf. If you seen Glorp play the blaster earlier, I want to see Glorp just go on this mint decaf run there. Anchor's gonna switch, of course, to the vanilla shot, obviously with the order colors in it. Nautilus being used 3 for 4 change on UCF. I like the change over to the splash. Pencil, I know has opinions, but honestly, your best option right now, especially with how quick pushes can develop, and the 52 gal. So another kind of wholesale change. Both teams kind of going 3/4 change here, in terms of the weapons. It's gonna be intriguing to see how this opening starts off, because what we've seen so far here, Rocket, is the opening kind of helps dictate how these matches have gone.
Indeed, you want to set yourself up fast, and especially on Clam Blitz, you need to maintain control of most of the area. You need to control most of the map in order to be able to get free access, or at least easy access to those clams. Build yourself up some ammunition. You see at the top of your screen right there, however, both teams are pretty even in terms of clams, as actually now the Knights are seemingly pulling away. They already have 2 balls being formed there, one in the hands of Drizzy and the other one in the hands of Astral, just waiting for an opportunity to push in. As the map is mostly blue, the Nautilus falls from the side of South Florida there, but Glorp evens that out with that decap. This decap might be an issue for the Knights to deal with here.
And that's gonna be the thing you have to deal with now, is that you're going from a blaster to the decaf, which decaf has a lot of paint spread with the slashes in
Ooh.
play. As soon as we noted that decaf, there is a jump slam dunk on the glorb there from Sugi. That was beautiful. But one of the tricky things there too is that there's only one pathway in. If you and you're gonna have to find an opening to make this one count. And this is the tough thing with Bridge clams here, is obviously you only have really one way to go in. That's through the ramp on the left hand side, respectively, on both sides there. And it's such an open map that if a lone Zuka, let's say from USF, lands, it's gonna be devastating.
Ooh.
Drafting at least will help slow things down. That's the key thing you want to
Ooh.
keep an eye on. Sugi dives in and takes out Benetrol once more. A callback from the Scorch Gorge Rainmaker map. But to no surprise, the way both teams are playing, there is no score on the board until now. Or not. I
Oh
lied.
no,
It's short.
just a little too short. The gal unfortunately misses that, so the Knights will not get any score on the board. But I mean, this is kind of to be expected, Keon, on this type of map. You need a very, very big opening in order to get any push on this map. However, with UCF, excuse me, being able to push in and take control of the map, they still have a lot of clams to their name. So if something's going to give way, the floodgates are going to open and it's going to hurt for whichever team is on the receiving end of it. However, both teams are still in this kind of neutral situation as you basically have to win 2 team fights in order to really get to even close to this basket here. The specials being traded out, but so far both teams just trying to test each other, seeing if they can get something to give.
And the both teams kind of are building up power clams one by one, trying to keep them alive for the faithful big push. But you kind of noted like this is almost to be expected there with the way these pushes are just developing. Or if there was one, there was an opportunity from Central Florida mine just a bit short of the basket. I like to call that the panic toss in this sense, but it's actually just a toss where they just want to get scores on the board and just couldn't find anything. And I noted the Zuka here too because it's such a straight shot that it could open the floodgates. The problem is, so did the Zuka themselves and 3 other members. And there's Andu. There's the other option you could take, and Andu is deep into the territory here. Now we get our first push of the game here, and this is gonna be a lot of clans being dished in from Central Florida, all the way down to 59 points remaining. 3 more go down, and the Crab is in a perfect position to zone out South Florida. In this case, members are going down one by one by one. Glorp cannot even move forward yet. Has to look for another opening, but Sugi's trying to shut them down, and there is a snipe once more. Sugi is trying to raid into Inker's side. That's not going to happen, and the push still very much alive, down to 32 points remaining here. And Rocket, the floodgates have opened, and Central Florida strikes at the best time.
This is going to be a very tough lead for South Florida to come back from. I mean, you saw how the first 4 minutes of this game turned out. There's no score on the board, and then just like that, already down to 32. This is going to have to be a momentous effort, a huge hill to climb if you are South Florida here. The decap does go down early here. You have the Crab actually available on the side of the Knights to try to play keep away here, but still not letting up the pressure whatsoever. You see that Crab going out from Dizzy, continuously just not giving South Florida any room to breathe here. 10 seconds left to make something happen. You do have your pity. You do have a clam there to just force overtime, but it's gonna be a tough push here. You need to have a heroic play to make this one work.
Yeah, the heroic play has to begin now. What Central Florida did on that push, by the way, was also play aggressively and then force the stagger game, which made South Florida's defense not be able to get set up just in time to defend the clam basket. And in this scenario, Glorb is trying to set up heroics here, going to be the first one to move forward, but the timer is going to run out as Central Florida just holds the line just enough to prevent the push from happening. Rocket, we are 2-2 tied up in the set. And Central Florida punches big with less than 2 minutes left to go, and that was the only push we saw today.
I mean, yeah, sometimes that's all it took. I mean, it almost felt like if that gal was able to get that ball in at the beginning for the Knights, that might have just ended up being an 80-100 win. I mean, Hammerhead Bridge is such a tough, like we've mentioned time and time again, there's only one path. There's not a lot of room to really work with outside of that, and you just have to win back-to-back, almost triple back-to-back-to-back team fights in order to get something going there, and eventually that's what the Knights did. But like you mentioned, being now 2-2, both these teams have come out with very different comps just based on their map modes that are coming up next. The adaptability of them is really, really crazy, as I believe they actually switched out players. I believe USF Gold switched out Thai TV there because we didn't see that Carbons. We saw that decaf instead, trying to try something new. Didn't quite really work out for them. But I mean, I like the comp that they did ran.
You've hit the nail exactly where I wanted to go with this one. Was both teams' adaptability is strong. It comes down to which team can execute their comp changes the best. And what we see in here is is kind of this trade-off. We win one, we're gonna win the next one. Oh, we're gonna go back and win the next one, then we're gonna go back to win the next one. So this trade back and forth we see there. I noted that there was one path because you'll get a quicker pathway through the ramp. We saw Andu actually try to get a push up from the block and then move towards the right. And then we saw that power clam just short of that clam basket. Didn't matter in the end anyway because they were able to get the second push later on. So you kind of see trying to take advantage of both the ramp and the block to get the push started. And by the way, Andu's master Zipcaster being just diving right into Benadryl, where Benadryl's vulnerable has set things up for success for Central Florida. We now go to ship-shaped cargo code splat zones for map number 5. If you want to recap how this set is played out here in the battle between South Florida and Central Florida in Division 1, The winner for map number 1 was South Florida. So in this case, USF Gold has won the zones map in Ramen. Now they got to see if they can play zones again, but this time in a different map, and that's ship shape. So it's gonna be intriguing to see what both teams want to do here.
Indeed, indeed, and I liked their comp from that. If I remember correctly, they did run a pencil with Benadryl. They did run that V Blaster, and if you're on the side of Central Florida, remember you did run a very, very unorthodox type of comp with those double trip strikes and that Booyah Bomb, really just kind of banking on the ability for those specials to really always having one of those specials online, always able to cycle themselves out, always able to keep South Florida on their feet and guessing, just making sure they can't settle and leaving them uncomfortable here. That is going to be their key. I mean, I feel like that's the key for both teams, making sure the other team is not comfortable at all, especially the back line. As I say a lot, the back line of teams are the spine. They hold a team together, and when they're uncomfortable, the other members of the team start to falter a little bit.
What I always like to use this phrase, just holding the line there. That's what we've seen from time and time again from Benadryl. For USF Gold, of course, UCF having their own as well, which I'm just trying to remember. I think it was Astral that's been on backline duty for UCF. So want to see how they stabilize here. Of course, from map number 1, Central Florida dished out a double trip strike and a Booyah Bomb comp. They could try to throw the kitchen sink at them. Thai TV's back in. Sear, so expect the carbon roller to come out. There's the pencil that Benadryl's going to stick with. We go to the other side. There's not going to be that double. There's not going to be that double. There's not going to be that Booyah Bomb. There is going to be double trip strike. So this time, and I think that's what they're going to stick to their fundamental. That's what they're going to stick fundamentally here in the zones map, is just taking advantage of the double trip strikes here from on UCF's end here, Rocket.
Indeed, Astro going with that ZNF again could provide an interesting matchup between them and that pencil. You won't have as much paint as the pencil, but you will have a lot more killing power, just being able to completely delete an opponent with the click of a button. But already off to a hot start, Central Florida are looking to break the pattern of first South Florida winning one, then Central Florida back and forth, as they are the first ones in control of the zone. You see Dizzy here maybe trying to pull off a little play here, managing to take off Thai TV there from behind. Will get taken out, but we'll be back fast with that cooler here, as zone will be contested, yes, but so far the Knights have been able to hold it pretty well.
Knights have been able to hold it very well. I just saw trip strikes thrown into the zone just to buy a few more seconds of it being in neutral. They did ultimately lose it in the end, and and penalty points have been applied, but it did for USF to have to still throw paint into it. Maybe a minute detail of anything there. Blaster has gone down on top of it. That was very nice, as we are going to see a lead change here. USF is able to hold line just well. Now, 4 members, by the way, right surrounding the zone at this stage, going to play this one a little bit defensively, but UCF loses 2, but they take out 3 of South Florida, and just the man advantage being pivotal there means that UCF is able to get the zones back. Now we can see this very aggressive maneuver here from Sugi that's trying to make this one count. USF's trying to hold the zones back by just a bit. Glorp is picked, and they're out of the penalty points here for Central Florida's gonna be out of the penalty points. Astro still trying to look for a snipe here, Rocket.
Indeed, and you have the trip strikes in your pocket here to hold the lead a little bit. 2 players are down, so that is the little timer in Astral's mind to use them now, just to try to stall out the push a little bit. However, the overwhelming numbers from South Florida are just too much for them. You see Thai TV almost managing to get that jump here, but the jump manages to sneak by, still being able to take control of this left side. Coolers being popped from both sides now, so we could be seeing some very fierce fighting. You see the trip strikes coming out from the Neo Splash to try to gain some space for the Knights. Another great shot from Astral will allow themselves to get another man advantage. 2 players now going down. Dizzy finding more, managing to find 2 there on that right side, and can continue to move forward as a player unfortunately falls off there. And despite that early success, Keon, the Knights weren't able to actually take control of the zone.
Yeah, it's just the back and forth that we just saw. Just the amount of fights that are happening left and right, and maybe center here from USF, able to pick off members from UCF one by one. It just meant that Central Florida not able to get more than what they could have out of that push. and USF's just playing this one very aggressively once more, and the trip strikes, only 1 or 2 were thrown out, and these trip strikes are going to just be just a tad late, and USF gets the lead back with 2 members down, by the way. These are going to be some longer respawns here from the UCF Knights. Astral throwing out the trip strike right there, trying to throw it right into the zone. It is shut down by Thai TV. Thai TV finds a wild Astral, and that's in that situation. USF's going to try to collapse on them, looking to seal this one here, as there's going to be 10 points remaining, not quite in time. Yes, 2 members down from UCF, but USF loses control of the zone, and that's penalty points applied, but USF takes it down to 10 points remaining here, Rocket.
Yes, indeed, Keon. At least Central Florida bought themselves some time to get back into this one, but they cannot afford to rest now. They need to keep up the pressure. Thai TV pulls out the Zuka in a quick flick, manages to take out one there. Still just holding on control. The cooler being placed in front of the bomb, unfortunately, allows 2 players to get picked by that, and maybe allow the Knights to get back into the trip strikes. Don't quite be able to reach the zone, but at least create space for Central Florida to move in here, as they don't really have that much penalty to work through, at least compared to South Florida here, as you see the picks going. Thai TV actually goes down to that Stamper. Another set of trip strikes will go out. You see the Stamper try to get more, unfortunately is taken out, but now we are under the 1 minute mark, and Central Florida are now out of their penalty. This is going to have to be a stronghold for them to get back into this.
It's going to need to be a strong hold. Glorb's going to have other ideas there. It's going to be this non-stop brawl, but they lose 3 in a pivotal moment. And Sugi, however, is throwing just enough pain just to neutralize it for a little bit more. But they're going to get fired into the Zuka there, and USF gets the zones back. And it's going to be 37 more points applied. But this fighting that's happening between both teams, just picks being thrown across the board, is just not allowing both teams to get anything set up on offense. It's going to be this trade once more. And about 20 seconds left to go on the clock. USF is going to be 2 down. They lost the pestle. They lost the blaster. Ooh. Everybody's going down one by one. A delay 3 on top of it. UCF needs to strike. Bait. Thai TV misses the flick on the Dizzy. Dizzy gets that pick there with the zap. And now UCF is going to be entering OT here. USF just needs to throw as much pain as they can right into that zone, which it has to be now, as Glorb is down. Going to be caught inside the bubble. They lose Sugi as well. But UCF's out of the penalty points, but they lose 2 right on top of it. Thai TV's throwing pain into it this one. Trip Strikes just able to get the zones back just in time, but USF is able to get the zones back when it really mattered. And again, another nail-biter finish that mattered in the last seconds, but USF holds on to make this a 3-2 series, and the next map is going to be match point for them.
Holy smokes, Keon. I thought the Knights had that one. I thought they were in a great position to come back from them. You saw Dizzy still managed to stay alive despite being the only player standing for the Knights, really able to get those jumps in and almost allow their team to take that one. However, the paint was just too much. The painting power was just too much for South Florida, and they were and allowed South Florida, excuse me, to really steal that one right back there, ending the valiant comeback attempt. And that's just been kind of South Florida's theme. Just when it matters most, they were able to just hold the fort, hold the objective down, and not to panic, just make the smart play, and just in a matter of milliseconds able to save that one.
There's too much to digest there in the last match, because normally when you see a lot of Splatoon here, Rocket, there are 2 modes. One is opportunistic. This is the one that you get to see a lot of aggressive teams try to do, is if you take 1 or 2, we're going to go take the whole 9 yards. And that's kind of what we saw from both. But each time they try to play opportunistic, they're looking for picks. They're looking for players that are isolated and look to collapse upon. Thai TV was looking for that in spades along with Glorp. On the other side for UCF, you see Dizzy doing the exact same thing, along with Peace on the blaster. Both teams just trying to find opportunities for their teams to get points, and that's kind of why we see just so many members down, just spread out, all staggered out across the board. It came down to who gets the zones last. USF got the cap. 17 to 10 points remaining was a nail-biting sequence. We go on to Inkblot TC. To quote a good friend of mine, Saf, is that it's everybody's favorite counter break. It's my favorite map. It's also your favorite map. You get the drill. This map should be known across the board. What's going to be intriguing though is both teams can adapt so well to the map mode combinations. I need to see what both teams want to do weapon wise here, Rocket.
It's hard to predict, really. I mean, when you looked at the previous mode in the previous tower map, in Humpback Pump Track, it's not a typical tower map that you look at. However, this is the tower map that people tend to know more and more. Inkblot Art Academy, like you mentioned there. It is an interesting map as the pathing of the tower is very disadvantaged towards the team that's pushing it because at every step, at every checkpoint, you are at a elevation disadvantage. You are quite literally pushing up a hill, and
Yep.
it's really hard to get to, especially if you don't control bats. Bats is such a great defensive position that these teams need to control really effectively. And like you mentioned, Keon, that both teams have been able to not only change weapons, but able to change out players pretty effectively in counterpicking. And so far, neither team has been able to win 2 games straight. And if this pattern can continue, I mean, UCF has a good opportunity to force a game 7. If not, then we could see the potential pattern breaker here, and USF will take this one.
So one of the things to keep in mind is you're going from humpback punch track target control earlier in the set to a much more standardized set, and that's kind of where you could look at what happened in game 2. It came down what it basically came down to is Central Florida holding on defense at around the third checkpoint, holding on by a mere 4 points. We need to see how, if UCF can get the lead and take it much further because you get to see this map everywhere. Both teams the theory holds that both teams could be as practiced as they can, and I think we noted adaptability. There's not going to be much in the way of changes there. Maybe except Dizzy going to the end zap of all things. Actually, I think there was just a whole another sub that I must have missed there from UCF. So we go from double trip strikes, by the way, to just one singular trip strike from UCF. But GG strikes are going to be online. There's going to be no strikes. Actually, I lied. USF does have the other T tech that's available. So minimal changes at best, I like to say. But both teams have trip strikes at the ready. And lo and behold,
Ooh.
UCF gets punches first with 3 taken out, and Benadryl has to retreat.
Indeed, they do. Astral does have these trip strikes as well to take control of bats, and it looks like the entirety of UCF Knights are just going for this bats position. Such a great position to go for. However, Benadryl will manage to hold down the fort here. It's such a very important position. You saw basically 3 members of UCF just dart their way all the way to there, but now the push is being halted as USF have been able to recover really effectively. They don't have any specials quite yet, and actually now a cooler being placed out for South Florida to kind of recover themselves. You see Thai TV using out the Zuka to maybe get a pick here, but now just trying to take things a little bit slowly as the players are still jumping in.
So how both teams have played so far is this: when you're playing weapons such as a carbon roller, as the lead's gonna change hands here for USF, is paint coverage matters right now. If Thai TV has a lot of room maneuver along with Glorp, it is gonna be bad news if you are Central Florida. Central Florida has been able to counter that in spades with their own paint, but the painting is gonna be on the 2 players per South Florida. You got the pencil, you got the order T tech there, so that's gonna help provide the line which allows Glorb and Thai TV to be enabled by South Florida. On the same vein, though, Central Florida has somewhat similar paint of their own, but they're also trying to coordinate the specials there. Zipcatcher is going to be denied for just a bit. There's Glorb lurking large, and that's Dizzy going down, and USF's now set up at bats. That's 2 members down. Trip strikes have to be burned, and and the triple splashdown is going to be used right now. It's just to put paint down in this territory, but Glorb's looking for members right now, Rocket.
Indeed, hungry for those players, but Glorb now being the last player standing manages to find the evening trade, but with that will be a delayed wipeout in favor of the Knights, stopping that push just short of that second checkpoint, which is what you want here, as really that is going to be the key choke points. I mean, they're created there for a reason. The checkpoints, you're forcing the tower to just stay stationary and allow the other team to set up in defensive positions here. So a lead that is definitely able to be cut down here for the Knights, but with half the game left to be played, they still have plenty of time to really work with here. Now you see the Zipcaster going and actually managing to find out Benadryl time and time again. The Zipcaster has been right on the mark in taking out the backline for South Florida. Unfortunately, the jump is canceled out, so that advantage will be quite lost there as South Florida still have strong control of mid.
The problem though, when they got the pick onto Benadryl there, so did 2 other members of Central Florida. You trade a pencil, but you lose 2 members of your own, so it's still a huge disadvantage for Central Florida, and they're losing a lot of ground fast because Glorp is set up now into bats, and there's 3 members. There's going to be 2 members down, but Benadryl and Glorp are going to just hold the line. Well, that's going to be the second checkpoint cleared right here, and that's huge. Now things can snowball in a hurry here as the Zook is being launched from distance. 2 members are down. Central Central Florida is not set up anywhere near the tower for defenses because they're gonna have to deal with Thai TV, which they finally do. Rocket, this could be looking dire here for Central Florida. They're at least able to hold off South Florida, on that push with a minute and 20 left to go on the clock. Though Central Florida needs that push now, especially now that they lost the second checkpoint. They're gonna have to do it again.
Indeed, indeed. The specials are all online for Central Florida, though a pick will be had by Thai TV, shutting down that Zipcaster before it can even be used. The trip strikes are there for Central Florida to try to get a push in here, but now with a minute remaining, what can you do? You are down 2-3 in this set. This is a must-win for Central Florida if they want to stay alive in this set. South Florida just needs to play their cards right, play keep away like they've been able to do. However, Thai TV goes down there, and actually, I believe that was 3 players that went down for South Florida, as Central Florida will continue to move forward. The Knights need to make this push count, as this is potentially their last one.
Yeah, this is potentially the last one. The problem is everybody is looking for opportunities to fight. Benadryl's expert dodging so far and trying to escape. The problem that Central Florida's been dealing with, look at the amount of gold that is literally on the paint. Pardon the coincidence there, as it's just so much paint that it's allowing Thai TV to find openings. Globeshot's able to move forward, and Central Florida needs a lot more time to set up. Now, here's the problem though. It's gonna be OT as the Zulka lands on the piece. It lands into Astral. I think Thai TV has closed the door on anything for UCF here. That's a delay wipe. USF is gonna take this one home here, Rocket. What a barn burner of a set that we saw here today. USF Gold wins the set 4-2 to take this one home.
Really well done there from South Florida. Their defense did bend, sure, but it didn't break, not at all. They were able to the pattern that they keep doing. They just set the lead early. They were able to gain that lead early and were able to just control the rest of the game to their tempo, play it to how they like. And I mean, South Florida broke the pattern of back to back to back to back. They finally won 2 straight, and to the victor go the spoils. You get the set. Congratulations, the University of South Florida. What a set that was, Kion. I mean, you said it there. I mean, finally something gave way, and it allowed the card. I mean, you mentioned the amount of gold paint on the map there, and that really allowed these frontline players such as Thai TV on that carbon to just do their damage. And we saw that theme continue throughout the entirety of the set. Keeley, especially on Rainmaker Tower Control, coincidentally enough.
Yeah, this exact pattern was both teams are looking for opportunities, and I've done a few casts before with this. When you see teams looking for opportunities, it's gonna just be a barn burner of a set. Or I like to call it a bloodbath, if you will, between both teams. It's just gonna be players gonna be splatted left and right, and no one's gonna be set up in coordination because both teams are just looking at ways to invade into the backline or look for fights to deal with. And we saw this almost throughout the set. Both teams were so evenly matched. It really boiled down to who got the objective last by the end of it. That's all that was all it was gonna be there, Rocket. But USF getting the last laugh and breaking the back and forth trade off there we saw between in each map. So kudos to USF. UCF played really well though, just ran into such a tough opponent there, and I gotta give credit to both teams. They played their hearts out here today.
Yeah, both had heroic plays. I mean, I can't even count how many multi-kills I saw. It always seemed like there was a player getting 3 or 4. It was never just a 1-for-1 trade. I mean, barely. We saw more just like full 3 picks or team wipes, especially coming out from players such as Thai TV. Just really well done from them. So massive props, as I mean, what a way to kick off this season. I mean, off to a banger indeed here. So if this is what this season's going to be like, we are in for a blast.
Collegiate Splatoon couldn't. Collegiate Splatoon is being had. I believe I need to hear this one more time here from the voices in my head. But I think I made it here. Okay, I think we can, because this would be perfect for this one. So we just had we had the voices in my own head here. Actually just roar out. So for those who are wondering, the set's basically over. It's 4-2. Everybody in the viewer base who's not familiar, it's a 4-2. in every tradition, you usually get to see teams play all seven for any particular reason. It's been a tradition, I think, even going back to the CCA League Season 1, back to the Splatoon 2 era, for those who are wondering. It's basically a little bit more practice of just playing all the maps because you're never going to see them later anyway. So this is what a lot of teams in the collegiate scene love to do. I personally, I'm a huge fan of it. They're gonna obviously play Manta Maria Rainmaker. It's just here for fun. So Rocket, just to get you just get you a little bit more familiar. Yeah, they like to play the seventh map just to see how just to get some practice in, or just to throw us off with a celebration.
I mean, I like it. I mean, it gives you either an opportunity to maybe just try something new, try a different lineup that you wouldn't really have an opportunity to try anywhere else, and really just try to get that VOD footage to maybe look at back later to see, hey, maybe this new comp works, or okay, maybe we can adjust some things, or just straight up, nah, we're throwing out that comp and trying and not trying that during a live thing. But hey, this is where teams really have an opportunity to maybe cook up something different, maybe to see something that we don't normally see them run if they actually have more at stake here. But taking a look at the teams, yep, we do see they're already from South Florida going with an entirely different
Okay.
comp. On Central Florida, you see the red zap coming out from Dizzy there. I love to see these weapons. You see Benadryl on that Jet Squelcher, and you see Inker on that Junior.
You know, I heard you say Red Zev, and I was immediately thinking of the Splatoon 2 weapon there from the old times. Like, wait a minute, that's not the same weapon you're thinking of, because I always refer to it as the orange Zev, the NZAP
Hmm.
89. But yeah, for those who are tuning in, this won't count towards the record books, but it is a long-standing CCA tradition that has, I think, even dated back all the way to season 1. And so there are two trains of thought here, Rocket. While we get to see both teams just kind of fight it out here, is you can either just treat it like it's a scrim. You can also just treat it like, okay, we want to test out some things, or as you can evidently guess, you could be the team to just dish out weapons you just don't normally play, and like a CJS or an NZAP 89, and just see how it just even works in real time.
I mean, it's seemingly working really well for South Florida as they're able to get that checkpoint in pretty much a minute there. A great start from them. However, the Central Florida Knights are trying to recover pretty effectively. I mean, the only change, like we mentioned there, is going to be that orange zap. And you see the Custom Blast actually managing to take Type TV,
Yep.
also managing to take out Glorp as well. Really nice done from them. But Manta Maria Rainmaker is also another map mode that is pretty uncommonly seen, but I love to see it played here. And unfortunately, though, for the Knights, they do lose their Rainmaker, so that push is lost. Although, on the other side, South Florida don't quite yet have the members to really take advantage of it really quickly.
And the big issue right now has Glorp actually just, I think, did Glorp really just get two out of that? I think they
Yes.
just did. Okay, I just needed to confirm my eyes there.
Hmm.
They did indeed get two, and I actually still this is kind of feels a little bit more slower compared to the contrary. I guess when there's not much, you can actually play a little methodical here, as we do get to see USF just invading through. There is two members collapsed on there. Make that three from UCF. They're able to take out South Florida just like that. And this comp of anything with the orange zap is the only odd one of all things. And then I see the siege, and then I see the custom jet sculpture, which I'm trying to remember the last time I've seen that weapon in any place, making its appearance. Along with, by the way, the Vanilla Junior as well, which I'm just kind of shocked if you had that available, you could have easily dished it earlier if you wanted to make it work.
I mean, yeah, the Vanilla Junior is a great weapon for a variety of reasons. I mean, the obvious one being double splat bomb spam. I mean, just throwing out those bombs, maybe get some cheap picks here and there, but Keeley for the utility, for the bubble as well to get some pushes. And you see a little bit of a dance going on from UCF Knights just trying to stay alive here. But so far, USF Gold have been able to put all the pressure on the Knights and not really give them any room to breathe here, as Inker does have that bubble up to maybe get in a push, is unfortunately taken down here, but I mean, yeah, like you said, some of these weapons are not typically seen, like you mentioned, that Jet Squelcher for kind of a good reason. I mean, the kit is a little bit underwhelming with the Toxic Mist and the rain, but we see here
Oh
actually,
no.
hold on, South Florida managing to drop down and almost get that to 7. That almost caught me off guard because I thought somebody from the Knights were able to maybe stall that out, but no, South Florida are just going for the kill here.
Yeah, South Florida might be trying to take this one home, but they're just gonna be cut a bit short. The bubbler actually might keep the crew alive. No,
Mm.
that it wasn't happening. They tried there, as you do see just the 1 point remaining there of all things. And you noted there too with the kid with the CGS. You just don't normally see it. The kid isn't very popular at all. And what I also just realized in the middle of the fracas, I like to call it, is Glorp is the one with the vanilla stamper, which we've seen Glorp on Blaster and Mint Decaf duty. I actually wanted to
Mhm.
see if Glorp actually got a zip caster pick or even a few slashes there. Didn't look like it at first. There
Ooh.
it is. I wished ask and I shall receive. It just comes at the cost of 3 USF members, and UCF are still playing hard. I got to give them credit here. They broke through the first checkpoint, Rocket.
This is 100% winnable, Keon. They just have a
Oh
minute to
yeah.
push. There's still plenty of time in Splatoon terms here. You just need to get that drop, and then anything can happen. You see a one-for-one trade happening on that left side here. Dizzy just trying to paint the way for Astral to maybe get in a position here, just trying to get that blue paint down as possible. However, you do see Inker on that Junior just lurking, waiting for an opportunity to strike on that Rainmaker, just daring Astral to drop here. 30 seconds remain. You see Glorp also threatening the Rainmaker. This is such a hard position to push into, Keon. But 2 players are down for USF. This could be a good opportunity if they so choose. Now 3 are down. It's just
Oh.
TyTV just lurking in the corner. This could be the opening they need. But no, TyTV managed to take out the Rainmaker, and that golden opportunity is shut down. No pun intended there. 10 seconds left, and USF Gold will seemingly take this one unless some miracle happens. I don't think they will. Just dancing with that Rainmaker,
Okay.
doing a
Now.
little bit of a celebratory victory dance, and off the map you go.
The celebratory. All right, we did our part. Now let's do a few dances and call it through. And I think even UCF probably just realized that Ryan was on the wall once they lost that push anyway. So why not do it for the style there?
Mhm.
And let what the lessons that we learned today is basically nothing from this map. It's everybody was definitely not playing the usual weapons that you normally see. And but that's also
Mhm.
part of the CCA tradition, by the way, for all the maps being played out. You either get to see people dish out just loony weapons there, or just or just they're gonna treat it like a scrim. Just get some practice on the board as a team, and you can go either way with it. At the end of the day, though, it's not a 5-2 for the record book. It's still gonna be 4-2 officially. Like to
Mhm.
note as that. So hey, whatever you can make the most out of the tradition is the best thing, especially if you're playing out silly weapons. Because Rocket, just to give you the zaniest thing I see was an 8 roller comp and turf war because that was gentlemen agreed into this one. I seen a lot of things in CCA, but this has been a great first week to kick everything off with.
Indeed, and I love that tradition. Just always having fun, just showing, hey, we have a little bit of a camaraderie here. We're all in college here, just trying to represent that, just trying to have fun. I mean, it's a video game, of course. So,
Of
I mean,
course.
I just love to see that, love to hear that, and I'm sure that's not going to be the end all be all, but that. But speaking of end all be all, this is going to be the end of this week for at least us here at
Yeah.
CCA for this IPL broadcast. But before we go, of course, Keon, where can the people find you?
Yeah, so you'll actually catch me as often as I can on the IPL side, unless scheduling occurs. So we'll be bringing you the action each week here on the CCA League Side of the Fence. Also, you can find me on the tags below, which is Keon257 on Twitch and on Blue Sky as well. So if you want to follow that if you want to follow those, excuse me, go for it. And also, please support your local collegiate Splatoon scene because you're actually
Mhm.
getting members. You may not even know people that actually do enjoy playing Splatoon that actually wanted to join. So I can tell you right now because I am an alumni for one of my universities here, which I'm actually wearing their shirt right now.
Nice.
Rocket is. Back in those days, we didn't have a Splatoon team, so I want to see the collegiate representation out there. Rocket, I'll toss it back to you. Where can the people find you?
Yeah, you can hopefully find me here on future CCA weeks. I will just be bouncing around just wherever, just looking at every division. Honestly, I just want to get a top-down run of all the colleges here. But anyways, in terms of the internets, you can find me right below here. Yep, right there at Rocket One Blue Sky. Just to find me wherever I might be commentating next. You'll actually find me, I believe, 6 days from now in H-Town Splashdown for the qualifier for Texas's land qualifier to see who will represent Texas for the land championship. So definitely go give that a watch. Next coming up Saturday actually. So yeah. But with that, I think that will do it for us here. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for CKK for being a wonderful streamer in the background there, doing all the behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, with that, we will see y'all next week.